Hi, I'm Dr. Ryan Outred coming to you from HealthOut Fitness here in Vancouver, BC. We're bringing health, which is over here, and fitness, which is way over there. We're trying to bring those two things together so that fitness is healthier, it respects your body more. So that's what we do at HealthOut. Now, this week, I want to go through a running warm-up and cool-down. I wanted to make a video that would benefit people who want to get into running this summer, and it would make your running feel easier and more enjoyable. Ideally, we would promote your running performance to some extent, so help you get into positions a little bit easier and run more efficiently and faster, as well as to prevent injury, so you can keep doing what you love to do. 10 minutes of this, and then another 10 minutes of your A, B's, C's, crossovers, dynamic running drills, even just running fast, progressively running faster and faster over that next 10-minute period after you do this warm-up would be great. So now I wanted to do some specific exercises for warm-up as well as cool-down. And then I thought, wow, this is getting really complicated. Nobody's going to remember all this stuff. So this is going to be your warm-up and your cool-down routine. You can call it a warm-down or a cool-up, whichever you like. But yeah, so you can do this after the workout as well. So after the workout, after you run, for example, you'll notice that there's some stability exercises in here. And it's good to really fully fatigue those stabilizing muscles after the workout. You don't want to overly fatigue them before. So if you're doing any of these exercises before the run and you're noticing, wow, I'm getting really tired in some of these muscles that I'm going to need for running, yeah, you can shorten that setup. And the idea is that if you can get more of those after the session, then those muscles will become fitter and they'll be much less likely to become fatigued during the next time you run or do other activities. Okay. Any questions? Good. So we're going to start with a couple flexibility exercises. I know you don't necessarily have a pad like this at where you're running from sometimes, so I gave that as an option. Maybe you're going to go down on the grass, but the other option is to grab the heel. This one's I don't like this one quite as much because my lower back can end up like this excessively, and it's harder for people to maintain their lower abdominals while they do the stretch. But if this is all we've got, then I suggest you do this version. My tummy's nice and tight, and I'm thinking about rotating my hips back. Right? If I look at the front side of my pelvis and the back side of my pelvis from the side as I do this stretch, it's a flat line. I shouldn't see this front side of the pelvis dip forward too much. I'm tightening my tummy muscles up. Great. Now I'm going to demonstrate the other leg with the knee down. So because my knee's down, it allows me to keep my hips much more controlled. They're not tipping to the side, and they're not tipping forward like this as well. So I can really tighten up my tummy in this position and feel the hips tip back, feel a much stronger stretch through the front side of my leg. Then if you are doing a good job at the tummy, you can integrate a little thoracic rotation while you do it. Again, I'm not losing that tummy activation through here the whole time. Great. So now you're going to stand on your left foot. I'm going to kick my right leg up in the air, keeping my spine nice and tall and straight, all the way to the point where I feel a stretch through the back of my left leg. Now notice my lower back isn't rounding like this, so I'm trying to improve the mobility of my left leg, my left hamstring, as well as work on the stability of my left hip. So I'm going down to the point where I feel a little stretch through here. I'm going to reach my right arm up, and then the left arm up here. Right arm up, left arm. Hopefully, my spine's staying nice and straight as I do this. Good. I'm going to do the other side now. Notice how when I reach the arm up, I'm turning the palm up, and when I'm reaching this hand back, I'm turning this palm down. So I'm actually warming up the shoulder joints a little bit by integrating a little bit of internal and external rotation. All the stabilizing muscles in my foot and ankle are warming up right now. And they're very important when you run. Especially if you like to prevent ankle sprains. Balancing on one foot is quite effective for that. Feel free to critique my form on the comments on YouTube if you like. So now we're going to do a split squat. I'll demonstrate it this way. So my right knee, when I come down, is going to be even with my toes here like this. My back knee is still bent. My tummy's going to tighten a lot at the top. Put your hands on your hips and try to make it so your hips don't tip forward at the top of this movement every time. So your hips are tipped back. Notice how my back heel is right off the floor all the time. I'll go from the front for a bit. And my hips, having my hands on my hips kind of helps me focus on not doing any of this movement with my hips. The knee and the hip and the knee tracks in line with the toe, as well as the hip through here. Again, I'm tightening the tummy lots at the top here every time and feeling a nice big stretch through the front of my left hip. Now I'm going to feel that stretch in the front of my right hip. So tummy's tight here, feeling a nice pull through the front of the hip here. I'm right up on that back toe and it's straight ahead on the back foot. Up and down. When I come down again, this left knee isn't coming out past my toe. And when I come up, I'm trying not to shift all my weight back onto the back foot like this. I'm trying to keep the weight in the front leg. I'm using my glute on this left leg to push myself up. I'm trying to keep this hip the same height as this hip here. And the main focus again is tummy tight, feeling a nice big stretch through the front of this hip. Fantastic. So this is one of my favorites. Because I'm quite flexible in my calves, I can put my hands quite low. Most people are probably going to have your hands right up around just below your chest height. Walk your feet out back until you get a nice little stretch through your calves. Once I get that stretch in my calves, I'm going to walk one knee up and I'm going to try and twist as far as I can to the left and as far as I can to the right, and then switch. So, I'm thinking about doing most of this twist through my upper back as well as my hip joint. So my knees don't collapse in or out. And same thing with my back. My lower spine, so right through here, isn't actually rotating. The rotation's happening up high through my upper back. I'm going to do this one for a full 2 minutes. Again, there should be a straight line from the back of my head, down through to my mid-back, down through to my butt, all the way down to my heels. So feel free to make comments on my form there on the channel. The twist that you want to emphasize is the internal, so the one where you're turning the knee across the inside of the body, because that hip internal rotation when you run is actually more important than you think. A lot of people have a very little amount of internal rotation of the hip, and so doing this exercise can help free up the hip joints, and at the same time you're stretching out your ankles into extension, warming up the small muscles of the foot. Whew. Okay, what's next? Next we're gonna do a single leg squat. So now this is a full-on stabilized exercise now. I'm keeping my hips nice and level like this. So if I'm standing on my left leg here, I'm gonna hike this right hip up just a little bit extra so that I'm never dropping it below the other side, okay? So I'm trying to warm up these muscles in the side of my hip over here. So I'm gonna pull my knee up nice and high and squeeze those muscles in the left side of my hip here. I'm gonna feel them right on the side of my butt. And I'm just gonna drop down ever so slightly into a small single leg squat. My leg's allowed to kind of come down beside me, but it's not touching the floor, and then it's up again. Squeeze the butt, and then down. I'm never letting this knee here come out past my toes, right? So it's trying to stay flush through here. I'm not trying to do my single leg squat like this. Let's do one more. I'm keeping this right hip up nice and high. All right, now we're gonna do the right side. Same thing. Don't let the knee come out past the toes. All the way up with this knee. Squeeze through the butt muscles on the side of my hips here. And I'm still hiking this left side of the hip up. So if you look at me in the middle here, this hip's just a little bit higher than the other side. In running, you don't want to have too much of this. Squeeze through here, knee up high. Okay, I want to do a little bit more to warm up your ankles. So you're welcome to do this with or without holding something for balance. I'm going to go up onto my toes as high as I can onto my toes. Then I'm going to go up onto my heels as high as I can on my heels. So you're really exploring a full range of motion, and you're allowing your feet to actually go out like this a little bit. And then as you go up, you're actually allowing the outsides of the feet to get pulled up. So not only are you going up and down, but you're integrating just a little bit of eversion and inversion into the ankles as you do it. All the way up. Whew. I think I had one more plan. Yes, the leg swings. So this is basically the last thing you'll do before you start to run. You're going to start really small with these. So again, back to that stabilized theme, I think a lot of people try to get too dynamic too quickly in their warm-ups and forget to control their body where it's typically unstable and focus on getting the flexibility where it's typically less mobile. So hip, typically a little less mobile, and you're trying to get it more flexible. This area here typically moves around a little bit too much. So we're going to start our leg swings nice and gentle. And I'm trying to keep my hips nice and still. So if I put my hand on this side of my pelvis over here, it's not tipping forward too much when I go this way. It's not tipping back too much when I go this way. It's staying fairly flat. I'm just going to do 20 of these gently. .20-ish. Okay, other side. If you look from my back, you can see your shirt. Like if you actually watch your shirt in the mirror, if you did have a mirror around you when you did this, you don't want to see the wrinkles. You don't want to see wrinkles in the shirt happen every time my leg goes back at first. Again, you're kind of hiking this hip up. You should be able to actually let the leg hang straight like this without it dragging, because you're using these stabilizing muscles on this side of your hip. So the leg can hang straight and free and swing. That's a good sign that you're using all the proper stability muscles in this side of the hip. Pelvis isn't tipping forward here. It's not tipping back here. So tummy tight as I go back. Tummy tight as I go back. Okay, now we can gradually swing more. And I'm trying to integrate that same feeling I had before when I was tightening the tummy as my leg goes back. Maybe a little bit of tightening the back as the leg comes up, just so my hips aren't excessively moving this way and that, but I am going to let your spine is going to integrate into the movement now, so you'll get some extension in the spine this way, and you'll get some bending in the spine this way. I'm just trying to still keep that nice full hip extension and full hip flexion, feeling a nice little stretch through the back of the leg, and then a stretch through the front of the leg here. Again, you should be able to hang that leg fairly straight without it hitting the ground too much. Then you know you're activating the right muscles through here. One more. I'll start a little bit gentle. And I'm trying to keep the tummy tight as I get the leg back every time, so my lower back doesn't excessively do this every single time. Whew. Well, I hope you like that. As you can see, HealthOut is really about doing movements properly in a way that gets the body moving more where it typically needs to move more, and controlling the body more when the body typically gets a little bit sloppy. So I hope you appreciate some of those cues to help control the body in the right ways. I think it's, the stabilize methods here at HealthOut, I think that they're not emphasized enough. So hopefully you can get some of that stuff into your warm-up and your cool-down routine, and enjoy a great summer of running. And of course, as always, don't just work out, health out.